Friends, family, fans, we are back with another episode of Friends, Family, Fans. Friends, family, fans. I have no idea when this thing actually started because it took a little longer. Welcome back to another episode of Back 9 Bets, episode 169, Old Rusty. There's often a lot of pronunciation essentials in the titles, a lot of puns. You know, we're now in the dad life, and we're going with the Old Rusty this week. We're going to hinge our week off of Russ Henley this week, along with a couple other people. We have bets and DFS outlooks on this week, sponsored by DraftKings this week. If you use code FGD when signing up as a first-time depositor, you'll get a little summon on our behalf, and it helps us keep the shows coming to you, for free. They're all on Mayo Media Network. Hit the like, hit the subscribe. Welcome aboard. We'll be doing a giveaway here at the half an hour mark and potentially the hour mark for a free month in the Model Maniac Patreon. Everything you see on the screen is available in there. If you get in there now, jump in using code CHUCK26 for 50% off your first month. Let's get into it, friends. We got the Charles Schwab challenge this week. We had Ben Griffin win this bad boy last year. We got no Scotty Scheffler this week. We've got no Rory. We've got Ludwig Oberg showing up as our number one ranked guy, our number one priced option, the unanimous top of the boards betting favorite, all of that jazz. Let's take a look at what we first need this week. We're going to take a quick look at the micro model, take a peek at what the course looks like from that aspect. We can even have old Ludwig as our poster child for the various elements of this golf course. When we take a look at Ludwig, we notice that he's going to be having, if you scoot over to the right-hand side of here, by the way, I've made a copy of the Chuck Schwab model over here in the Model Maniac Patreon, where you can go and grab all this stuff. You can then edit this once you've made a copy, because we've got Maniac model rankings and percentages up here to generate your own power ratings. For Showdown, for week-long, you can do all of that stuff in the model once you've made a copy. You can't do that if you're just looking at it as my OG, because it's locked, right? So you'll have access to that. Just thought I'd put that out there. There is that element that there's a lot of things in this model that people are unaware of. So I thought I would share that with you. Micro model this week. If we take a look at what Ludwig's situation for the week is going to be, you can see over here that we have a basic summary of the various approach proximities, the various par 3s, par 4s, par 5s, the fairways hit, the greening regulations, and your projected score for each golfer. So if you're looking on like DraftKings for props and things like that, prize picks and all of those things, they have awesome, this is an awesome tool for you to use over on this side of the building. If you take a look at Ludwig, we're expecting 3 shots from 200 plus, 8 shots from 150 to 200, 6 shots from 100 to 150, and then 1 shot inside of 100 yards. So that's basically your general outlook. We are smashing approaches from 100 to 200, particularly from 150 to 200, which you really see separation from these particular golfers. However, Ludwig's going to do most of his damage from 100 to 150. Much better wedge player, it appears, than he does from 150 to 200, where he's barely kind of neutral on the field, which is interesting to note. If you go over to strokes gained approach over here, ignore these names. I still need to update that a smidgen. Apologies, but you kind of, we'll just get rid of all of this here quickly because I don't want to mislead you. Those are the incorrect approach yardages. We saw Ludwig's with a 6.8 2 1 or something like that. I can't remember the exact things. We saw it there. Now we're going over to the 100 to 150 strokes gained metrics for these guys. Ignore the 2 dudes with zeros. They don't have any data in there, and my dumbass doesn't know how to change that to not include a 0. But here are your top guys for this range. We're looking at guys like Austin Eckroat leading the field in strokes gained this year from 150 to 200. We're going to find Ludwig all the way down here in 61st, but obviously gaining the 4th most strokes from 100 to 150, gaining the 10th most strokes inside 150 out of the rough, and the 3rd most strokes out of the rough from 150 and beyond. So when he is missing fairways along with the rest of the field, he's gaining more on the field, but you ideally want to be hitting fairways more often than not. And he struggles a bit compared to the field from that range. Only still middle of the pack, nothing too crazy. But this is the kind of thing you can use this tool for, to identify who is going to be dominating from 150 to 200, who's going to be dominating from 100 to 150. We got guys like Webb. Clanton actually dialing himself in with the wedges quite a lot. He struggles on these longer golf courses, so that's not shocking to see him actually probably grading out better than usual coming up this week. Ludwig, number 4. Davis Riley, fantastic with the wedges this year so far. Maybe that's why he thrives at this golf course. Who the hell knows? Worth a note. Sam Ryder grading out quite nicely for me inside of 200 across the board. Typically struggles from the 200 plus mark. So another good course fit. You can use these kind of things and see. But you go over to the Maniac model over here, and as a result, you can go and see who are these guys popping for the course fit model here in the micro model. Ludwig's obviously number 1. We saw that already. And he gets a micro model rating of 1.7, and Russell Henley gets a 1.4. So it is a decent chunk of a bit of a gap. On the Fantasy Golf Degenerate show, I will put out there a full disclosure. I had long-term data in the short-term data column, and it was skewing Russell Henley a little bit. On the Trenders tab in particular, I was sharing some stuff over here with you guys, and I was kind of wondering why Ludwig's recent form isn't sky high and Russell's was. It was because it was using the last 4 instead of the last 1. So that's my bad. It is what it is. It was Memorial Weekend. We got off to a slow start, but it's been rectified. We're all good to go now. Maniac model time. Let's dive into it. Ludwig Oberg, number 1 in the Maniac model course fit rankings. The guy is coming in scorching hot over the last 2 months. He just cannot stop finishing inside the top 5. 4th at the PGA Championship, 8th at the Truist, 4th at the RBC Heritage, 21st at the Masters, a little disappointing, 5th at the Valero, and then 5th at the Players. I mean, this man is doing wonderful things, and we want a taste of him, so we're just going to go. Ludwig Oberg to finish top 5 this week. If we take a look at what he's actually been up to over the last little while, Ludwig has not played this golf course in his time on tour. Shout out my boy Tybo for mentioning that to me as well. You can also see this all on the Model Maniac cheat sheet over here. 0 course history, and he's still ranking pretty highly because he gets a 0 for that 10% of the model. That's part of the course history thing, is if you don't have any, you're getting dinged. So still pretty good. If we put some course history in here and just pretended like he's going to gain a couple, if he had Russell Henley's course history, he's gaining, then we're starting to see him separate even further from the pack. So there's Ludwig's outlook for you. He's finishing inside the top 5, 26% of the time. We're getting plus 215 over here. Ties paid in full on DraftKings. Go check it out over there. If you take a peek, by the way, I'm taking a look at some round scores. We can get into that shortly as well. But if you go over to Popular here on DraftKings, no ad this week for them. So we're just going to be perusing the website as we're going through here, just organic promotion for you all. We're looking for top 5s, top 10s, top 20s. Here's Ludwig, tournament winner, top 5. Once you stop speaking, you can actually think about what you're doing, Byron. We're going to probably do a 20% boost on a top finish parlay at the Charles Schwab Challenge here at some point. So we'll put some of these names in. There's a whole bunch of placements coming your way, friends. So expect a bombardment of that. We got 2 outrights. We'll get to one of them here next, and just rattle off a bunch of placements, because last week we had Brooks come through for us at plus 140 for a top 20. Cash that for 1.4 units. And then we had Pearson Coody at plus 163, which we get for a higher top 20 this week, by the way. Come through for us with ties paid in full. If you didn't have the ties paid in full, you got banged. So make sure you are going out and finding ties paid in full, under these columns over here. There's, DraftKings offers that for you guys. So you can absolutely go over there. Use code FGD when signing up. You can pop in Ludwig for a top 5. That is, I believe, the best in the market. So that's going to be part of our situation. The form is fantastic. The course fit is numero uno. The mid irons are one small issue, maybe why he might not win this week, but we are using Ludwig in 1 and done anyway. I'm in the money, making $700 in the Mayo after putting in 250 there. So that's looking good. We took a bit of a beating in the underdog streets at the Byron Nelson. My teams, the reason they're there is because they played too well. And now I don't have enough guys playing jabroni tournaments. Christopher Wrighton was in a lot of lineups. He didn't play, those kind of things. It is what it is. we're going to have to bounce back the next two. But Ludwig this week, I love where he's going. I mean, we are seeing a ridiculous surge in form over the last 12, 8, 4 and 2 months. He's, almost 0.7 strokes better, currently in the last 2 months than he has been the last 12. So he is starting to find his groove. I'm also just realizing I haven't even checked comments. What's up, Chad Candles? Hope you're having a great day. You too, CC from MM. And good afternoon, JP Delfrio. Good to see you in the chat, my friend. Let me put the comments on over here. I'm all over the place. My bad. Alrighty. So Ludwig Oberg does fantastic things. He checks 5 boxes this week. He's going to be a guy that you can potentially target in particularly in round 2. On a Friday, he tends to go banana lands. These pricings are also for last week. So I'll get that round 1 showdown in there once that's out there for us to put in there. So don't stress. Ludwig, solid in hellish conditions. Most of those are majors as well. His major track record, not the greatest when it's coming to Ludwig Oberg. Did just finish top 5 at the PGA Championship. So that's his first non-Masters top 5, first non-Masters top 10, and it was a top 5. So starting to find his groove. Then he went over to the next tournament, and that has been his last start. So you love guys coming off a major good performance that gives them the most confidence of any tournament. Finishing 4th at the John Deere is not going to change Ludwig Oberg's confidence levels. He's done that multiple times. I'd say the 4th place finish at Aronimink was definitely one of the more motivating finishes he's had in recent memory, outside of maybe winning the Genesis, which kind of created his next couple months. So this is good. Ludwig Oberg, top 5, plus 225, half a unit, plus 215, half a unit on that to win just over a unit there. Just getting some taste on a man who's obviously the best in the field when it comes to just in form. You cannot find anyone that's playing better golf than Mr. Ludwig Oberg right now. It's almost, 0.6 strokes more than Alex Smalley, who's on a complete scorcher right now. So you can see Ludwig's doing good things. Took a little extra time there to get through his top 5, but, he is going to be a key part of this week's slate at his price. When he came out at 10,000 to 10 to 1 this week, in the outright market, me and Sweet Spot DFS thought on our Sunday night show, go check that out on Back 9 Bets YouTube channel or sweetspotdfs.com YouTube channel. We do a Sunday night preview over there and go through all of these golfers. We had a couple beers on the show this week as well. In fact, I've actually got a leftover Twisted Tea that is just on the desk here still. But when Ludwig came out at 10 to 1, we thought there was going to be a situation where he could be $12,000. Turns out he's not going to be that situation. He's 10-5. Russell Henley's at 20 to 1 in the betting markets, and he's $10,200. So that's only $300 difference in price. We thought there would be a bigger disparity since DraftKings set the pricing in the odds and the DFS world. But somehow the pricing, maybe the market's just way more bullish on Ludwig. There have been a lot of people that, we saw coming into this year before Ludwig really had that weird downtrend. I don't think he ever had odds shorter than 35 to 1 outside of his first 5 starts on the PGA Tour or something like that. So he got bet down very quickly. The market's always bullish on him. And as a result, we are looking at somebody that's 10 to 1 in the betting market and 20, basically essentially priced 20 to 1 in the DraftKings market, 15 to 1. It looks like we are having some Wi-Fi issues. Let me know in the chat, please, if I'm coming through slowly or not. If you can hear me clearly, that would be nice. This has been a very frustrating part of the show lately. Okay. Looks like we are done lagging. Apologies. If it was lagging on my side. So I just hate speaking when I'm lagging because I don't trust that it's getting to you. I don't want to waste these beautiful words that I have for you on Ludwig Oberg, but we are moving forward to our next guy. What do we even have this filtered on right now? I don't even know. Let's just go by model ranking. Yeah, so it's more like my computer than the Wi-Fi, it seems like. I don't know. You sound good to me. Okay, wonderful. Well, then it's just my computer, but I'm warning you there's probably going to be a problem here soon because it's lagging pretty hard right now. And I hardly have any. I just restarted before the show. It is what it is. Russell Henley, friends. Let's dive into him. Second in the model. he is at double the odds to Ludwig Åberg to win this tournament. So we are looking at somebody who isn't graded that far behind him that badly, like a couple fractions of a model rating, but he can do some good things if we're taking a look at a long-term baseline for Russell Henley. The last couple starts are a little problematic. If we got a 13th, a miscut, and a third, and duplicated that into our more recent starts over here, I'm also just going to, apologies, I don't even know what I'm showing you guys. Let me go. I'm just going to restart. It's lagging on my side, which is the problem. So I'm going to just take a couple seconds to just fiddle with one or two things, close a couple apps, and then we get back into this. Sorry, friends. Technology does use some dirties every now and then, but we are dealing with it here as we go along. Here's my copy of the Chucky, and then we're going to dive into it here now and see. Maybe this just little resets it. I was getting a little concerned. It's messing up my vibes. Now I can hopefully remain in a flow. Talking about Russell Henley here, 20-1 to win this tournament, and we're going to be betting him top 20 at -110 as well. This is the Sex Panther. We talk about him. Ludwig obviously a little closer to that at 61% of the time, finishing top 20 all the time. Russell Henley finishes top 20 74% of the time. And we are getting -110 odds on a golfer I understand has not cashed this bet now, and we've been on him for it the last little while. We were heavily invested in Russell Henley at the PGA Championship, miscut, putted like shit. Cadillac Championship, also 49th, whap. But, outside of that, we got a 13th, a 3rd, and a 25th in the last 4 starts prior, which were only starts 3, 4, 5, and 6 ago for Russell Henley. So nothing too crazy to really be concerned about. His strokes gained in hellish conditions is the best of his 4 splits, gaining 1.4 strokes on the field. I think only Robert McIntyre gains more. Ben Griffin gains more than both of them. So Bobby Mack behind Ben Griffin, but Russell Henley up next, right, gaining 1.4 strokes. When it comes to a course fit situation, Russell's been struggling on bent grass greens a little bit lately. The putter has let him down a little bit. That was what happened at Aronimink. He lost heavily on the greens. Tee to green, though, this is about as good of a course fit you could wish for Russell Henley. He's going to be dialing it in. If we go to his micro model, take a peek at like what Russell Henley's going to be doing when he gets a wedge in his hand, which is hilarious. If he could drive it better than Ludwig or as well as Ludwig, remember Ludwig's getting 6 shots from 100 to 150, and Russell's only going to be getting 4. So from 150 and out, Russell's going to be hitting 13 shots projections wise, and he's significantly better from 100 to 150. So hopefully this course firms up a bit. There's going to be a decent amount of weather-related stoppages with lightning and thunderstorms in the area multiple days this tournament. As a result, beware. But Russell Henley gaining almost half the amount of strokes in 2 less holes from 100 to 150 versus 150 to 200. This is where you want to find Russell Henley in that wedge range. You can see where his approach yardages really spike anytime. You can see, strokes gained approach is going to be a short shot. Strokes gained approach, it's a short shot. Strokes gained approach spikes, it's another 138er. So the moment you start getting a little further and further away from the hole, Russell tends to struggle a bit, but he's a little shorter off the tee. We are looking for guys that are hyper accurate this week, friends. If you gain strokes off the tee with fairway accuracy, that's who I want in my world right now. And if we take a look at the ratings here, you can see who are the most accurate drivers projected for this week. Andrew Putnam is projected to hit 69% of his fairways, despite having ridiculously poor yardage off the tee. Then there's Russell Henley gaining 68% of his fairways this week. So we are looking at him doing good things, gaining off the tee while still hitting lots of fairways is going to be paramount this week. The rough at this golf course is Bermuda. It's pure Bermuda. It's not overseeded with rye, which means that if you are in the rough, you have significantly less control over your golf ball, less spin out of Bermuda. Even as, ideally you want it long for it to be super penal, but Bermuda in general by nature, no matter what the length is going to be significantly stickier, grabbing the club face, getting between the face of the golf ball, and just not allowing you to generate spin on it, despite only being inside 200 to 100 yards every single time these guys are hitting approaches. So finding fairways, and if you think about it, Russell Henley's got a top 20 in his only appearance here in the last 5. Lucas Glover's got fantastic course history at this golf course. If you think about, I think Joel Damon should have played decent. Yeah, Emiliano Grillo's a past winner at this golf course. If you take a look a little further down the board here, JJ Spahn finished 6th here last year. Matt Kuchar's had repeated success at this golf course, those kind of things. Shout out to Brian Campbell, who's very good on bent grass greens, which is what we are playing on this week. Typically loses a lot off the tee, but we'll be hitting 6 of every 10 fairways. So this is kind of just getting into the general philosophy of Russell Henley being an accuracy over distance guy, and that allowing him to be a reward because hitting fairways matters, and still not being punished because he is short off the tee. He still gets to lean on the golf clubs from 100 to 150, from 150 to 200, not having to lean on long irons from 200 plus that much this week is Russell Henley at a golf course that rewards accuracy. Sometimes if you're hitting accurate drives, it's on long golf courses because you need control from a 4-iron range. This week is a little different. So that's what I really fancy. Same thing with Lucas Glover. I don't even have a Lucas Glover top 40 yet. We should be looking at that. But I'm actually just going to type the banner in here so that it reminds me to do it at the end of this. Apologies. We're doing a live one here quickly. Top 40 Glover. Okay. Russell Henley, though. We've gone through all the reasons we fancy Dancy him. 20 to 1 to win this tournament. He's a winner. We've seen him win the Arnold Palmer Invitational just about, 13, 14, 15 months ago. That's what he can do in big tournaments. He hit a lot of fairways. He made a lot of good putts. He chipped one in for eagle to win the damn thing, basically. So we can lean on Russell Henley's short game this week. The course fit model is fantastic from an accuracy perspective. It's really going to help him hit a lot more greens than he typically, gets going on. I'm all in on Russell Henley, especially him throwing a bunch of darts lately. So not so concerned about the recent form. We like Russell Henley's course fit more than we do the lack of form coming in here. And the strength of field is just not remotely comparable to what Russell Henley's been playing in the last little while. The next field that Russell played in that had this kind of a caliber strength of field was probably the Valero, and he missed the damn cut. So yay. That's what's going on here. So anyway, that's when we had a top 20 on him over there as well, was the Valero, and he missed the cut there. That's what it is. Anyway, so that's Russell Henley, top 20, and to win this thing, plus 2,000. Go check it out. Obviously scoot around if you are looking for the best number out there. Next up, we're going to be going with a man, a myth, the legend. I'm actually going to see as we go down, it's going to be a placement bet for us, and it's probably going to be my Sports Illustrated. By the way, we are profitable in the Sports Illustrated panel now for the prop market, which is very dear to my heart, being the guy that always force feeds you placements. I'm profitable now. We had a couple where Ricky Fowler at the Houston Open probably found out about Tiger Woods' accident and missed the cut and had a bit of a bad stretch there. And this was where we kind of dived in on Ricky Fowler, and he started struggling. Now he's back, I think, because he finished 60th at the PGA Championship. It is what it is. This golf course rewards Ricky Fowler in a lot of ways that he does good golf, gains a stroke per round in hellish conditions. Ricky gains 6 boxes of the 7. The only person is down over here that you can't see yet. We'll leave that as a smooth tease. But Ricky Fowler is 6 boxes. Like we said, one person checked 7. Here's 6 boxes. Hellish conditions, likely one of them. What do I think it's not going to help him? Oh, the total win percentage. That's just not going to potentially get it done given the lack of top 5s and win equity. We're only using top 10, top 30, top 10, top 5, and win percentage for this total upside metric over here. And I don't think Ricky Fowler would be there. So that may be one of the reasons he's not in the mix. Or course history definitely checks the box. We've got a 6th, a 37th, and a 16th in his last 3 starts. The recent form is phenomenal, obviously. Almost won the damn Truist. He putts fantastic on bent grass greens. Love to see that. The course fit is 4th in this field. We did the last 4 months in strokes gained. He's checking that box as well. So it's likely going to be this one. Let's take a look. Yeah, I mean, is this all the way? Well, I guess he checks that one too. I wonder what he wasn't checking. You never know, but maybe who knows? But Ricky Fowler, friends, top 20. He does that routinely. 60% of the time is Ricky Fowler finishing in top 20 in the last 12 months. We have noticed he's had 2 of those in the last 3 starts at this golf course, with one of them being a 37th. This was placed with ties paid in full. It's at a book that you can deal with, and it was fractionally better, but DraftKings has it plus 115, which is totally cool. I think if you're going to that route, go grab it there. Use it as part of your make the cut parlay or your top finish parlay that they offer you out there with that boost. Ricky Fowler coming in, playing some fantastic golf. The course history is solid, and the ties paid. I've been going to get into this with other guys as we get into them shortly. Ricky, doesn't really give you a reason to go to the top 30 side of things, whereas like I would probably lean into an Hideki Matsuyama top 30 more than a top 20 type bet. But his odds aren't going to be worth it to go there anyway. They're going to be super short, but he does it 77% of the time. So versus 20% of the time top 20, whereas Ricky is 60% of the time top 20 and 70% of the time top 30. It's barely a difference there. So top 20 market is almost double his top 10 market, and his top 10 market is 6x his top 5 market finish rates. Only finishing top 5% of the time, and that includes his Truist Championship second place finish. That's likely the only one he has. So putting that out there, that's why we're going with the top 20 bet at plus 125. I love that for Ricky. Obviously checking that box the last time he played here, and the PGA Championship 60th place finish is fine. I'm not going to be too concerned about that on a golf course that was kind of diabolical. I think I'm much more interested in the run of 3 consecutive top 10s in the signature events when we got to RBC, Cadillac, and Truist. So Ricky Fowler plus 125. He's going to be $9,600. I don't have any ownership added yet, as of this time, lunchtime basically on a Tuesday. So didn't get there yet. With that, tee times come out right about before the show as well. I'll have that all updated for you guys as we go through the week. So Ricky Fowler plus 125 for a top 20 is going to be our guy there. And then we're going to go to our second and final outright of the betting card. It's going to be Pearson Coody, 40-1 each way. That gives you a clue of where that's at, with 6 places on a river somewhere. If you take a look at what Pearson Coody's doing, he checks all 7 boxes. I'm going to have to figure out which one Ricky Fowler didn't check for us, by the way. It's bothering me now. But Pearson Coody, course history, fantastic. We've got a 5th place finish here in 2024. We got the 6 places each way, which hopefully covers if that's a repeat. We can hopefully get him to take a win down here. Now, he hasn't had many top 5s on the PGA Tour in the last little while. These 17% top 5 rates is mostly got to do with the Korn Ferry Tour starts and maybe potentially early in the year when he had a couple, when he was on that stretch of 5 or 6 top 20s in 6 or 7 starts. It was a very, very impressive run of finishes for him. And now we're starting to find this consistency again after this got bad. Houston, the Players, API, it was just bad. Very, very bad once he got to Florida after a fantastic West Coast. We've steadied the plane. There was a break to just kind of breathe. I mean, this was, I think the Players was his 8th straight tournament in a row or something like that. It was bizarre what he was up to. So good to see him have a break in play and some good results since. He gained putting on bent grass greens at the PGA Championship. He struggled. It is what it is. Everyone that's ranked highly, the majority of them, we've only got 2, Alex Smalley and Ludwig, that finished top 5, that finished top 20. In our rankings. JT is 4th over there, but all of these other guys really struggled, which is kind of interesting. I'd say it's almost kind of compy in a weird way, but that one's just way more steroided than anything else. So he was also hurt with a shoulder. Yes. Thank you, Jimbo. By the way, rumor has it, you never know where Jim and them will be found doing wonderful shows. The Sunday night test, taste test, sorry. The tastes of the tests ahead. And It was a shoulder. I do think you are correct in that department too. So we'll see what happens with Cooter. He's obviously a first-round leader guy as well. We'll get to that market when we do. We haven't had a chance to really do that, but he gains 1.1 strokes in the round one for Cootie. Been struggling a smidgen, but, finding his groove again lately. So like to see that from him. We're also going to be going to Pearson Cootie in the top 20 market. He cashed a big one for us at plus 163 last week. And we get a plus 192 at DraftKings. Ties paid in full. Almost 2-1 odds for somebody that is now finishing inside the top 20 basically half the time. Remember, we rattle off that stretch of finishes that he had at the West Coast Swing. We are looking at a fantastic finish rate of 50% of the time he's inside the top 20. We're getting almost double that in odds. So, 2-1 odds versus 1-1 odds, that makes a big difference. So we're going to treat it like it's a bet that's plus 100 and just place a unit on it to win 1.9. If we place this unit and lose it, we still 0.6 up after Cootie's top 20 last week. He's playing fantastic golf. This course is a fantastic fit for him. He's 9th in the model rankings, despite not necessarily being the greatest iron player. But because he hits so many fairways for a guy that drives the ball as well as he does distance-wise, he is still going to be hitting a lot of green in regulations based off of the various places that we are going to be hitting the golf ball from. So, it's really cool to kind of see how this micro model kind of gives you different ways these guys can succeed in the week. And it's definitely not going to be around the green. So we're going to need the putter to stay dialed. We're going to need to be hitting a lot of green in regulation so the puddle can stay dialed. If he starts driving it poorly and not hitting a lot of fairways, we're going to be missing more greens. We're going to be chipping more, putting less, problems. We need to hit fairways, so we hit greens, so we chip less, putt more, solutions. That's the Cootie top 20 situation here. Plus 192, ties paid in full at DraftKings. Let's go grab one. I love this course fit for him. I love the course history, having 2 top 20s in the last 2 years. That's something I'm in the mood for. So let's get it. I love this number. This is a smash play. This can really help you save the week if this comes through for us here. That's it. So top 20 on Cootie and 40-1 for the outright. We're going to be doing placements on the way out of here as well. Typically, we do the back end of the show, some DFS as well if you have any questions in that department. But we're going to do a quick giveaway. So let me think of something over here, and we'll do a quick easy one. In the last 8 weeks on the PGA Tour, not counting the Zurich, who has got a win on the PGA Tour in the last 8 weeks, playing this week in this field? There are 2 names with the win on the PGA Tour playing this week. Hit me up with that name. Gets the winner with the first name, gets a free month in the Model Maniac Patreon. And we are looking at somebody by the name of JP Del Frio with saying JJ Spawn. If you guys are ball knowers, you know this. Pilon, just coming in late. Where were you? You were on the Back Nine Bet stream, weren't you? On Sunday night. So welcome back. Good to see you in the mix. I don't think you are part of the Model Maniac Patreon. So the 2 of you coming in hot and heavy, that's appreciated with the right name. So congratulations. Both of you get a free month. I said one. You fell asleep. Yeah, we should have too. We spoke for another 2 hours after that. JJ Spawn is your guy. Congratulations to the 2 of you. JP, are you in the Model Maniac Discord? I don't even know. But hit me up on X or just jump into the Model Maniac Discord. I'll see you come into the welcome page there, and then I'll just hook you up on the back end. However it needs to work for you, come on through, or find me on Patreon at the Model Maniac Patreon over there. You can message me, I think, in the member updates chat. Then I can get you, I can DM you from there, that kind of stuff. I just need to send you a link. That's a gift for a free month. It's simple as that. But I just need a way to get it to you. So however you can do that, contact me and I will hook you up. For those of you who want in on the Discord and the Patreon, use code CHUCK26 and get yourself 50% off the first month. It's $15. You get to see exactly what's going on ahead here. I think that'll cover you for the next 4, definitely covers you for the next 4 weeks. And it'll get you through the Memorial, the RBC Canadian, and the US Open. So you get me for the US Open. I go hard at the paint for the majors. You've got me. I'm yours. here's the schedule that you'll have. These it's all big tournaments coming up, so you're gonna have a good one. These are great shoes, by the way. I bought one like ages ago. I don't know why they're targeting me right now. Anyway, there's JJ Spahn and Brand Snedeker, your two guys there. So shout out to y'all. Appreciate you for commenting. Appreciate you all for being part of the chat. If you are watching the show on a replay, hit me up with who's going to finish DFL, dead freaking last this week. And if you are correct, not a lot of you do it. I don't know why. I put it in my comments here. You do it all on the Fantasy Golf Degenerate, telling us who's going to win. Tell me who's going to lose. It's probably easier because the player pool is significantly smaller. And figure it out. Then you get a free month if you get the right comment over there after you've listened to this on the replay. So that's where we're going there. Moving on to Mac Masner as our top 20 play of this week. We're going to take a peek at his situation. He's been playing fantastic golf, and he's priced at $8,000. I'm assuming he's going to be highly owned in some capacity. I mean, we are coming in with 4 top 31 finishes on the trot. Let's go over to the player summary tab here, which is so cool. I really like this tab. It's something I want to pump out more. Let me get myself out of. I'm going to get rid of your comments quickly while I do it over here, just because there needs to be more on the screen. I just don't like. No. That's me. Keep me out of here. No. Okay. I'm going to get Mac off the screen in the meantime. We are talking about him for a top 20 bet. This is it's not ideal for like showing on the stream because it's really kind of claustrophobic, but it looks awesome on a desktop. So if we go to Masner, you just click that in, you click Masner, enter, boom, chakalaka. He's 20th in the DraftKings ranking. We got him 4 spots better in the model ranking, which is good to see. You know, the last 5 finishes we've got here, the last 5 tournaments on the calendar, including a double dose, was the 9th place finish at the one flight, and then 31st we saw at the CJ Cup, which is his worst finish in the last little while. So got a good finish recently. He's finished 5th here in the past and 28th in 2025. So the last 2 starts have been 2 top 30s. I really wanted to bet him top 30, but it just didn't make sense from that angle. We'll get to that here shortly. If you're taking a look at his top 20 rate, it's 25% of the time. I kind of fancy his chances at this golf course, given what he's up to right now. Grading out very nicely, and the number on the top 20 bet was just better than we could imagine. So he doesn't play the greatest in hellish conditions, but he's playing fantastic golf right now. And I believe those tournaments that we just had Mac play, Valero was tough as balls, finished 30th. And the one flight, I think they took apart to pieces, right? They went deep there. So the Valero, he's got his groove going on now. So I think he can bring that form going forward. We've got that great course history coming in here, and he's finishing inside the top 20, about 25%. I like the fact that the top 30 rate is almost 50% of the time. But if we go to DraftKings and you take a look at the way this is looking here, you can find the top 20 Jesus, they took it down. Okay, so it was there just a couple minutes ago. If you take a look at his number, this is what I've been dealing with, and it's kind of a nerdy concept going on here quickly. The top 20, including ties, just over here on DraftKings right now. For Mac Masner is going to be plus 196, okay? So that's with ties. If you go to the top 20 market without ties, that's usually on my screen. I can't do that right now. It's so dumb. I'm not putting up other stuff. So I really wanted to explain this to you, but when we take a look at these odds, basically what I'm trying to say is if you get a top 20 with ties, that includes you got to finish 18th. Well, last week, T19 was a 12-person dead heat. It was an insane situation when it came to the finishing positions on the leaderboard. T19, you would have been dead heated. No, you wouldn't have, because it was everyone that finished T19 was the top 30. Then T31 began the next set. But there were freaking 12 people tied for top 30 from T19 and down. So if you bet top 20 on Pearson Coody, Last week, that was with dead heats. You lost most of your investment and got like zero return because it was a plus 160 bet and it would have just been sniped in half to like plus 80, or like 60% implied probability odds type thing if you just dead heated with one person. There were 11, so I saw some people send me screenshots of like horror stories with the dead heats. If you went top 30 though, instead of going with the top 20 with ties paid, you would have cashed. And I want to see the difference in odds between the top 20 and the top 30 and the top 30 versus ties paid in full. Ideally, I would have that available to me. It was on before I came onto the stream and now it's gone. So maybe I'll do it some other time again if you guys remind me. But I think a way to navigate placing bets that have ties paid is by potentially just going to the next tier of bets, taking that juice on in the top 30 bet versus the top 20 bet. If you don't have the ties option, go to the top 30 bet, which basically gives you the ties. It builds it in. There's hardly ever going to be a time where it's more than 11 people tied. So you're basically taking a hit there, but you are ensuring that if you're getting that top 20 and there is ties involved, dead heats do not apply because although they apply to the bet, they don't apply to the market that you would have placed it on because you're giving yourself that extra 10 spots, the extra 5 spots from top 5 to top 10, that kind of thing. If that makes any sense. It's something that just came into my head today. I figured I typed it out in the Discord saying, I'm so sorry that you got dead heated. I just didn't want to send off a sorry note. I wanted to provide some avenue of reprieve, some avenue to kind of eliminate that happening again. If you are following a top 20 bet, to almost bet the top 30 at a worse number with the dead heats applying instead of looking for the ties paid in full. I figured that's just something I thought about. I don't know. We'll mention it and see what happens going there. Back to our regular paid programming. Mac Masner playing great golf. I like what he's doing. We're going to him at top 20 at plus 225. Obviously, wherever you need to find that, you can find that. Next up, we spoke about Ricky Fowler, top 20 at plus 125. Let's go to another guy that checks 5 boxes, and it's Harry Hall. Friends, 10th in the model. We are looking at somebody who doesn't have a top 5. I believe his last official top 5, not at a alternate event, was this tournament in 2024 or 2023. 2023. He finished. There we go. Looking at the event history on the Model Maniac cheat sheet over here. 3rd in 2023. That is Harry Hall's last top 5 on the PGA Tour. Now, Harry Hall finishes inside the top 20, 4 of every 10 starts. He finishes inside the top 30, 7 of every 10 starts. So that is the exact same rate as he finishes top 40. So when he's finishing top 40, he's simultaneously finishing top 30. And then, it doesn't quite work out for the top 20. Obviously, it's about half, which kind of makes sense in a weird way. So the fact that we're getting a plus 180 ties paid in full for a top 20, I'm taking a gamble on the fact that we can get ties paid in full because the problem with top 30s is you do not get many markets out there that give you ties paid in full with the top 30. Now, I just mentioned you can use the top 30 as a top 20 ties paid in full type situation. That's a weird workaround that I gave a specific situation for. But the odds compared to the top 20 bet with ties paid in full, if there's 5 or 6 people that tie from T19 through T25, that's 25 people already. So, it's basically a top 25 if he finishes T18, which is a weird way to think about it. Harry finishes inside the top 20 quite routinely. We don't have many lately, but we've got a 30th at the Cadillac, a 28th at the Houston, and an 8th at the Truist. Those are the 3 top 20s that you're seeing in the last 5 starts from him. Missed the cut at both majors and the Players. So any big tournament, Harry's shit the bed. Any solid tournament, he has been top 30 outside of the RBC Heritage where he basically finished last. So he's been struggling, finding his groove. He has played fantastic at this golf course in the past. I do understand that the driver is a problem for him. It's one of the reasons we don't necessarily seem ranked that highly in the micro model from a course fit perspective. But overall, he plays hard conditions well. He's fantastic in the short game department. That's what Harry Hall's signature is playing the short game area of the world. So we'll see what he can do. Got a lot of course history. Got a very repeatable, finishing rate here for a top 30 market. If you can find like a top 30 bet for Harry that offers ties paid, grab that as well. But if you can find Harry top 20, a top 30 that's pretty close to this number, then we're good, because this is ties paid in full, which affects the whole calculation a smidgen. What I typically say when you are looking to, this is going to be a very, very nerdy, there's a lot of bets, a lot of placements, and ties paid is a big deal. So for those of you that don't know this part of my little cheat hack for ties paid, let me find something that's like a little easier to go with here. All right, let's go with Russell Henley. Russell Henley top 20, minus 110, ties paid. If we go over to DraftKings, I think that's one of where it's going to minus 115 over here. Their top 20 on Russell Henley would be plus 120. Dead heats apply. How do you know which way to go? Well, the first rule I have is you can do like a quick rule of thumb calculation. So you take your ties paid odds and you take the first two decimals. You basically leave one decimal, because if you get like a 4-digit plus 1,000, you take the first three. So you're leaving one decimal and you're timesing that, the first two over here, minus 11 times 3 equals minus 33. So you can add that on because you want to get the better odds, right? So the dead heats have better odds. You want to see basically 30% of the bet needs to get you to the same odds. So plus 120 dead heats and minus 110 with ties paid is basically the same bet, in my opinion. You can go either route. I'd probably go ties paid just because emotionally it's better for you. Dead heats kill you. But I also wrote about this where the closer it gets to negative odds, the more you can lean towards the books that provide you a value where there isn't ties paid and they are dead heats, is because those bets cash more often than not because they are negative odds. There's an implied inference there that you are finishing top 20 more than half the time if you had minus 110. So when you're finishing inside the top 20 at that rate, you're usually finishing further from the bubble of the top 20. You're finishing closer to top 10 kind of thing, especially with Russell. He's way inside the top 10 there quite routinely. So, you can then lead into the dead heats when the odds get to closer to this like minus 110 range. But when you're going plus 240s, plus 210s, that kind of thing, and if you're going with the plus 200 ties paid in full, you need a plus 260 for dead heats to be worth it. Because you're taking the 20, you're timesing it by 3 to get to 60, and then you're adding that to the plus 200 to get to plus 260, and then you can understand that that's the value. That's the fee, that's the tax that you are paying for dead heats to not apply to your bet. It's basically a 30% surcharge, in my opinion. Some places have them closer together in odds, so you almost going to the ties paid in full because it doesn't even make mathematical sense. From my perspective, I ran back the testing and figured that it's like a 30% fee that it happens. It obviously changes depending on the odds. Dead heats happen way less when your odds are closer to 50-50 than they are for 2-to-1 odds. So, that's kind of the nuance of the ties versus dead heats. I'll put I have that article saved in the Discord for those of you that have the knowledge bombs. Go type in ties versus dead heats on the internet and you'll find me there. Just type in Byron Lindeque. Okay, so there we have it. That's how you're navigating these top 20s and top 10s with ties paid, ties not paid. It's all about grinding out a profit over time. And if you're getting the worst odds, it's hard to do that. So we're going with Harry Hall at almost 2-to-1 odds. We've seen how consistent he can be. We've had a bit of a struggle. We're going to a happy place for Harry Hall. If we take a look at his player summary, I'm assuming we're going to take a much better situation here than Mac Masner when it comes to putting. Also, my computer is like lagging like a son of a gun right now. Again, I'm going to throw this thing out the window. All right, so Harry, he has his rankings versus the field when this stupid thing stops scrolling again. All right, I'm not going to scroll anymore. Wherever it lands, it lands. But as you can see from 200 plus, Harry Hall is phenomenal when it comes to hitting the ball close from the fairway. That's pretty much his only solid area in golf, inside the top 10 in this field. Everything else is outside the top 20 for the most part that applies. He avoids poor shots, the 14th most in the field from 100 to 150. I don't even know if I'm speaking to people right now. Okay, looks like we've caught up again. If I disappeared, I'm so sorry. But what we can see here is the further from the hole it gets, Harry struggles, So these 100 to 200 yard venues where you can lean, he's significantly better inside 200 yards with the strokes gained than he is from 200 plus. So that is immediately what you want. And then you can go to the micro model and you can just type in Harry, and then you can see, okay, how many times is Harry? Is he like worth a gamble this week? He's going to be hitting 14 shots inside that 100 to 200 range this week. So taking a look at his player summary, he's inside the top 40 in approach from that range routinely. We're going to see a lot of those shots coming. He's very good at hitting his wedges close. So he's going to be dialing it in. There's some nice things to see. Lots of green regulations as well, which is good for Harry. He's a very good short game guy as well. If you take a look at his, typical profile in the short game department, he's the best putter in the field on Bermuda and the best putter in the field on bent grass. So I'm happy with him on bent grass surfaces this week. We are fantastic at chipping on Bermuda grass around the greens. He's fourth in the field in that department. So we are liking a lot of that with Harry. And even if you're not in the mood to deal with him early, just wait for him to finish round 1 and round 2, and then you can dive into him live, because he's typically going to find himself outside the top 10 to top 20. I just don't want you to target Harry if he's inside the top 5, because he's likely going to eject the very next round and then bounce back again. That's just kind of like the Harry Hall top 20 situation. So that's Harry for you. JJ Spahn, top 20 plus 138. If we take a look at what JJ Spahn gets up to over here, once my computer quits being a giant little bitch and lets me actually stream over here, I will click some names. But we are using JJ Spahn's little player summary tracker over here for ourselves, and using code Chuck26 to sign up for a Model Maniac half a month free, essentially. We're taking a look at JJ Spahn's situation here. Last 4 months is his worst metric. He's 12th in the field in strokes gained. We're taking a look at his more recent, obviously 5th in the field over the last month, 4th in the field over the last 2 months. He's won one tournament already in the last 12 months, which is fantastic, and he's 10th in the field in top 20 rate. So this top 20 bet has him, finishing inside the top 20, the 10th most of anyone in this field, and he's been playing in signature events, etc., etc. He doesn't necessarily thrive the greatest in hellish and hard conditions, but we do have a 6th place finish for him at this golf course in the past. If we're taking a look at his, history over here at the top of the thing, we can see we've got a miscut, a 63rd, a miscut, and a 6th at the course history side of things over here for Harry H. But we do have a 5th place finish at the Truist, a 14th at the Cadillac, missed the cut at the PGA Championship. I think he putted his brains out again, or should I say putted without his brains at the PGA Championship. I think I was in on him there. Didn't work out for him. But, we've seen some decent finishes lately from him over here, playing some good golf. We love the ball striking. On the ball striking front, we are looking at JJ Spahn coming in here 4th in total ball striking, strokes gained off the tee plus approach. He's fantastic from 150 to 200. If he's anything like Russell Henley, he's going to have a slew of shots coming from that range as well. I think they drive the ball similar distances. So, they drive it. He drives it super accurately around you as well, which is good to see. You want to make sure JJ Spahn's hitting it in the fairways, and, from the rough outside of 150, he's fantastic too. Out of the rough in general, he's top 10 either side of the 150 split. So that's good to see there. That's this year in 2026. So it's enough now. We've had 4 months of golf. I think we can lean into the more recent approach play a little more than the last 12 months, which I typically do. So that's JJ Spahn for you. If we're chipping around Bermuda, he's pretty damn solid in that department. So once we get on the green, it's just going to be a disaster in general. You never know. You never know what he's going to do on the greens. I do believe the Valero is bent grass surfaces as well down in Texas. We're back in Texas. If anything, he's got the vibes on the soil. Also, once he makes the weekend, there's nobody better in this field in strokes gained. So if you want to take your time on JJ Spahn, you can go and bet him for a top 20 or top 40, depending on where he is on the leaderboard. After round 1 and 2, he typically gets off to some slow starts, but man, when he makes the weekend, he capitalizes. So that's good to see. He's one of the best there. Over the weekend, you can see he's the number one in the field. So that's JJ Spahn for you. Let's go with him in that department. We are off to the races with JJ at plus 138. Ties paid in full. Does that at a top 20 rate of what? 40% for JJ Spahn. So we're getting some value in that department. We've got a 6th place finish here last year, and we've got, a slew of very good top 25 finishes, about 5 of them in the last 8 starts for JJ. So if it's not making the cut, he's playing some good golf. As you can see, those the Masters, the PGA Championship kind of let him down a bit. So outside of that, he's been playing some very good golf. Like what JJ Spahn's doing. Lucas Glover, let's go. Tell me we got top 40 numbers here. Why do we not? Do I have to have my location verification on here for that to be the case? I don't know. Why are books all goofy like this with this kind of stuff? Popular. We are looking for tournament, outrights, tournament winner, top 40. Yeah, we go. Yeah, we go. So maybe I do need to have my verification of location on in order for this. What the hell? Anyway, so top 40 for Glove. For the Glover, he's going to be 29-1. What the hell is that for? A top 5. We want the top 40, B. There we go. Okay. Plus 176. Friends. Okay, this obviously doesn't include ties. That not many books do that for the top 40s. Let's take a look here because Glover has been doing some stuff. So his last couple starts have been 42nd, 14th, 37th on 2 very driver-heavy bomber narrative venues. He's finished top 40. 42nd at the RBC Heritage after essentially starting the year just with a slew of miscuts. I think he had a shoulder injury himself. So that's the problem there. So we've now got 3 top 40s in the last 4 starts. The PGA Championship boned everyone. I'm essentially going to ignore that if it was a bad start. And then if we take a look at Lucas Glover's finishes at this golf course in the last 5 years, there are 4 top 40 bets that would have cashed. Now, obviously, this 40th would have been dead heated. Womp womp. It is what it is. You would have made your money up either other side of that going with Lucas Glover. So at plus 187, look at this stupid computer. I'll tell you. Plus 176, sorry. I'm in. I will be doing my due diligence shopping around a smidgen, but that's where we are going. Lucas Glover, about what? 3/4 of a unit-ish, 1/6 of a unit to kind of get us a full unit return type situation there. We got to imagine this Kiefer boy is going to continue to perform, especially in Texas. I'll be willing to take a look at a top 20 with this field. Kiefer, by the way, this is the part of the show that we will be doing some Q&A. So James Douglas is on the mark here. Let's start off our Q&A session for the deep dives of bets with some DFS twinging. Johnny Kiefer, 63rd in the model, and that's likely got to do with the long-term metrics for the Kiefer. Let's take a look at his situation. By the way, this is going to be my informal goodbye to you because I'm seeing my stream replay back to me in pictures. I'm not even seeing. Now it's finally caught up to a video. I can see my hand moving. Prior to this, it was causing me major issues. I'm going to have to figure out this computer. It's back-to-back weeks now. I think I've had computer problems. But that was the Wi-Fi last week. All right, so Johnny Kiefer. Let's go to the player summary tab and freeze the computer even more. I just feel like if you are deep diving, people, this is where we want to be. If you want the actual numbers, the strokes gains, the percentages, the whatevers, they're here for you on the left-hand side. I'm contemplating switching this around because personally, I'm a bigger fan of the rankings. It just gives it a bit more context based off the rest of the field. So here's Johnny Kiefer. He is long-term form-wise finding his groove. You know, obviously over the last 2 years when we was playing KFT, that was the year before this. Fantastic. That's helping him, you know, carry a lot of that load. The last 4 months has been some of the worst golf he's played. The last month has been some of the better golf he's played lately. So starting to find his groove. As you can see on the recent form side of things, we got the 9th at the CJ Cup, and then the 31st at the One Flight. Made the cut at the PGA Championship as well. Other finishes for Johnny Kiefer, couple missed cuts and a third at the Houston. That's a driver-heavy venue, wide open. And I do want to stress, James, that the CJ Cup and the Houston Open are two Texas events that unlike the Charles Schwab this week, you walk up to the next tee and you're just pulling driver essentially every single time, hitting it wherever you want and going from there. I didn't watch much of this week's tournament with the remodeling. It was a busy weekend, obviously with family, you know, all that. I'd imagine it was still very driver heavy around TPC Craig Ranch. The same goes for Houston. Those were two venues that he's very good at. He's got a lot of distance off the tee, one of the best in the field, but he misses a lot of fairways. If we go over to the player summary here, you can see the driving distance is insane. You know, he's hitting a 297. That's for this course. That's his average going to be for this course. That's why I like to use the rankings because he's 7th in the field for this golf course, only driving an average of 297. That's what this golf course does to you, right? You can see Kiefer. The reason I'm surprised for 297 is because I'd imagine him being the 7th best driver in the field is the average on the PGA Tour is 303. So, you know, for him to be 7th, you can add an additional like 15 yards onto that. So if you go over to the micro model, you can see why, you know, there's an average driving distance on these different holes. Like the second hole, the average driving distance 299. On hole 5, the average driving distance is 281. On hole 10, these guys are taking iron. On hole 17, they're taking iron, hitting at 230, 240. So that takes Johnny Kiefer's biggest weapon of driving distance out of his bag. And as a result, I don't know. The Texas narrative, there's the thing. Were those two courses Texas golf courses, or were they, like you mentioned here, birdie fests, that kind of stuff? So two of those golf courses probably got to minus 30, pretty close to. So this week, I don't see him doing that. Is his how does he do? He's terrible in hellish conditions. He's better when scoring averages are under par. So in my opinion, this Kiefer boy is not going to be part of our is not grading out nicely. You know, we got him we've got 15 spots ahead of his DraftKings ranking versus the model ranking. I'm out, James. I'm out, especially after some people might be jumping on Kiefer after a good finish at the CJ Cup, Byron Nelson. I think the course fit was significantly better for him there. Again, PGA Championship, hard golf course, made the cut and then finished DFL of those that made the cut. I vividly remember that because I have him in best ball for a long period of time here already. So there we go. All right, people. Hit me with your questions. I'm going to go over some of the best values in the model, and then we're getting out of here. I'm not going to be hanging around too much longer. I've got to get some stuff done before Mini Mania gets home. So our best value rankings versus the DK pricing this week are Marty Doe at 47 spots ahead of his DK price. Missed the cut for us last week. Womp womp. But I prefer Marty Doe That was a gamble more on Marty Doe's ball striking ability and the fact that he was playing some better golf at the Houston and the one flight. I just don't see him hanging in at a CJ Cup minus 30 situation. Let's get Glover off of our screen, please. Thank you very much. We are looking at Marty Doe thriving in hellish conditions with 2 top 20s in his last 4 starts. So we get hard and hellish conditions. That's Marty Doe's situation. He doesn't necessarily hit a million fairways, but he drives the living piss out of it and hits a lot of greens still by missing all those fairways. In hellish and hard conditions, I'd imagine that applies to this week, driving ability-wise. Great on approach, great around the greens, and solid with the putter, doing a lot of good things in that department for Marty Doe. 36th in the micro model ranking, 24th in the model itself. A lot of hellish and hard conditions. I mean, these are some hard conditions. I think that's the highest in the field. Yeah. A lot like Ludwig Oberg in hard conditions, 2.3. Ricky Fowler, 1.6. Matt McCarty, 1.9. Akshay, 2.3. That's largely got to do with him treating Bay Hill like a medium golf course. Excuse me. First cough of the show. Glad that the lungs are doing a lot better after getting sick in the wintertime. And it's an hour, 6 minutes in. So yes, that's Akshay's situation, playing good golf off the, the Bermuda side of things there. Bloody, bloody, blah. Back to what we were getting to with the best, options in the model. Marty Doe. Zecheng Doe is his official name. He's Marty Doe to us. Ball striking savant. 13th at the one flight. I feel like this course is one flight, like this week is one flighty. There's no real superstar in the field apart from Russell Henley and Ludwig Oberg, and Ben Griffin and whatever, but no one's priced less than 10-1. Scotty's usually 3-1. Roy's usually 6-1, whatever, So, yeah, they are. Hank Lebioda doing a lot of heavy lifting with his hard and hellish scoring conditions on the Corn Ferry Tour, most likely. We haven't had that many, but did do good golf at the Valero and the Valspar. 2 of his better finishes in the last 10 weeks. So 11 weeks. Yeah. So 10 weeks because there's a double dip here and there's a Zurich involved, blah, 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 blah. But Hank Lebioda, 14th at the Valspar. I think Valspar is not a horrible comp for this golf course whatsoever. A little less water probably this week. Maybe a bit more. There's water. There's a decent amount of water on this golf course. Ask Emiliano Grillo down the right side there of 18. Hank, green regulations, strokes gained approach, doesn't hit fair, just bad with the driver. That's his problem there. But still, he's $6,300. So if he can have an inspired driving week or just find the irons and some sort of short game resemblance over here, we can see what happens. If we take a look at Hank, I'm curious what his splits all look like. Hard and hellish, obviously, significantly better for him. If we take a look at his strokes gained around the green on Bermuda is much better, and then his putting is just average in general. Nothing too crazy. Ideally, you'd want him on power, but nothing too crazy from a splits perspective there. Opens up pretty strongly in round 1, and then kind of poops the bed on a Saturday. But at least he'll make the cut for you at $6,300, hopefully. What is his cut-making ability for us at this price? He makes the cut about 65% of the time, 67% of the time, and has made the cut in all but one of his last couple starts. So he's a cut maker and then just can't figure it out on a Saturday. That's just what he does. So, take advantage of that $6,300 price tag for a made cut and then kind of just hope the other 5 guys you have give you some upside going forward. Again, he's $6,300. This is where you're going to see all the value come across. The model loves Austin Smotherman from a ball striking perspective. Obviously a fantastic approach player. Finds fairways while maintaining mediocre distance. That is ideal what you want this week. Can still be a good driver of the golf ball, but finding fairways is essential this week. Going to keep the GIR rate pretty high up there, and then the strokes gained approach coming through in that department. We'll see what the hell happens when it comes to the short game. Maybe he plays better on bent. Let's take a look at Smotherman's short game splits for ourselves over here. Obviously very good on the ball striking front, very good out the rough from 150, decent out the rough inside 150, out the fairway. He's very good from 100 to 150, mediocre from 150 to 200, and then he's just elite from 200 plus, fifth in this field. Then we take a look at the bent grass putting. He's 44th, which is exciting. Not for some people, but for him, yes, because he's 104th and 85th on Bermuda and POA. So that's good to see. Also, if you're looking for a showdown play, Smotherman, 28th in the field in round 1, strokes gained average. So that's good to see. And then in round 4, he's second in the field. He gets off to hot starts, freaks out, and then finishes strong on Sunday. So that's his general profile over the last 12 months. Obviously, that changes. We bet Patrick Cantley for a third-round leader, having some of the best. He had not lost strokes on a Saturday since the 2024 Masters. 2025 Masters. And went and lost -5 strokes that day. That's just golf betting. We lost a full unit on Patrick Cantley because he just couldn't for one round of golf. So we messed up there. Austin Smotherman looking good. Nick Hardy, I don't think I like whatsoever, despite being $6,000 flat. He does have some course history helping him here with an 11th place finish. Looks like he's got 3 consecutive made cuts at this golf course, which is $6,000 is worth it, essentially. How does he do? He doesn't make a ton of cuts, but he's making a ton of cuts at this golf course. He's missed 3 consecutive cuts coming into this week. He does a bit better on hellish conditions, which is probably pumping him up the model a bit. He actually gains half a stroke on hellish conditions, loses a lot in medium conditions for some reason. These obviously don't mean everything. You kind of want to look at them in clumps of like hard and hell and easy and medium, but I even try to use like decent size. When I figured out these exact buckets, like easy being -1.5 strokes or easier for the scoring average that day, that was about like 27 to 30% of all rounds on the PGA Tour was that side of easy. Then 1 stroke from -1.5 strokes under par to half a stroke under par for medium was roughly 25 for the other 3 buckets type thing. I tried to do the bucket so that it would include the same sample size, although the bucket might be a different size, if that makes any sense. Although it's really not that crazy. It's like half a stroke, 1 stroke, whatever's on that side of it, and then whatever's on this side of hell, which is over par. And when it's over par, Nick Hardy scores half a stroke on the field. So he's a $6,000 option. We've made the cut here 3 times in a row. It's kind of checking out, right? Although he's not checking any boxes, it's checking out for him at this price tag. So if you're multi-entering and need a min-priced option, Nick Hardy can make the cut for you. He's kind of like a Hank Lebioda, but $300 cheaper. The course fit, not necessarily the greatest. It's the short game that's been a problem for him. It's the driver's accuracy that's a problem for him as well. Maybe he finds it better at this golf course driving-wise. Brand Snedeker, short game wizard. He grades out really well for this golf course, but he's never really played great here in the last 5 years. I'm going to have to take a look at Sned. From a long term, because maybe he's playing better now, obviously. I don't know. Did he play well yet when he used to play well yet? Yeah, he's had a couple good finishes at this venue with the putter and around the green. Like when he's played poorly, yeah, it's been the ball striking that let him down. The ball striking is still pretty poor, obviously. So, obviously the short game's there, the ball striking's not. You decide, is he going to have a good ball striking week? He's also $6,600. These are all value options. These are value options using the value part of the situation. If we want to actually get rid of the ranking side of things, you can just go value rating, which will change that up and give us a bit better options as well. But while we are down here, there's a good chance I actually also bet Chandler Blanchet top 40. I haven't had a good chance to do too much additional stuff. I've waiting on books to come out still with like ties paid has been driving me nuts. But Blanchet, 44th at the PGA Championship, 33rd at the RBC Heritage, 18th at the Valspar, 52nd at the Truist. I guess that's something. He finishes top 40 50% of the time. We bet him top 40 last week at the CJ Cup, Byron Nelson at 2-1. We didn't cash that, but the scoring was easy, which that checked the box for us. But he doesn't hit it very far. So I don't think last week was the perfect course fit for him. This week, there's a much better route for him as an elite fairway finder this week. Everything else of his game is kind of hit or miss from a long-term perspective, but he checks, these are shorter venues. The Valspar, the RBC Heritage, the Valero was weather-stricken. The PGA Championship finished 44th. That was a more positional, shorter golf course where finding fairways mattered. TJ Cup, Houston, doesn't matter. So the checks box. It was kind of, we got a little ahead of ourselves based off of what he gets up to. I'm kind of shocked he's grading out as poorly this week compared to last week, because he was grading out pretty hard last week for me. But maybe this field's slightly better than last week. So anyway, okay, so power rating values over here. We can go value ratings, filter by the biggest to the smallest. It should bring in guys that are still popping as like optimizer dudes. So Ludwig, 0 points difference in his ranking, obviously numero uno for both DraftKings and the Model Maniac Patreon rankings. Makes a lot of sense. That's why we're using him one and done. That's why we're betting him top 5. Ricky Fowler at $9,600, giving you some serious value rating, power rating per dollar type thing over here. That's good to see. Russell Henley, obviously, we like what they're doing with his price. These two 10K guys, interesting how they price them, especially Ludwig. So I think Ludwig making a top 5 bet and DFS. I'm in. I don't mind it whatsoever. I just don't know if I can go single bullet Ludwig at 10-1 type situation. Russell Henley is in there. Gary Woodland is one of the few guys. He ranks 5th in this model. He's got tons of distance off the tee, and he's still relatively accurate compared to guys that do have as much distance as he does. His approach plays damn good as well. Let's take a quick peek at Gary Woodland. If we're taking a look at Gary, round 1 has been a very good round for him. Typically, he finds his groove. He's the best on POA, but he's also damn good at putting, or reasonably good at putting on bent and Bermuda. The short game is just terrible on any sort of surface. He's much better when the course gets longer. He's a great long iron player, 5th in the field from 200 plus. He's 20th in the field from 150 to 200, and then he's 70th in the field from 100 to 150. But he is a good wedge player out of the rough, strokes gained wise. He's impressive from inside of 150, which, considering he's 82nd in the field in driving accuracy, it's a good combo. So if he's going to be in the rough all the time, but having significantly less than everybody else in the field on approach, he's still going to be hitting a decent amount of greens. He's still going to be hitting it relatively close, and, letting that putter just do its thing. You can putt well, you can, putt poorly, but hopefully we just avoid having to chip as much as possible. Go Gary, let's get it. I like this course fit. He's kind of a low-key guy. I mean, over the last 2 months, he's 3rd in the field in strokes gained. Over the last 4 months, 11th. Had some weird finishes lately. Mr. Cut at the PGA Championship. That's it. Since the Players, he's been on fire, and that's when he mentioned to everybody what's going on with him. I mean, look at this contextual clue. It's just PGA Championship, a little overwhelming, wedge-intensive golf course. We just saw how poor he is with wedges. We saw how poor he is at driving the golf ball. Not going to be, and you had to chip your face off around there. Not a good golf course for him. This week is similar, but a little less wedge play, a little more mid-iron play, and whatever. I think it makes sense for Gary in this field in particular. He's a class above most people given how he's playing right now. Alex Smalley's checking boxes. Pearson Coody obviously checks a bunch. Someone we haven't spoken about yet this week is Bud Colley. Finished 3rd here last year, 26th, 37th, 38th, 7th, 21st are his last 5 finishes. All playing good golf, just solid stuff across the board. When it comes to Haddish scoring conditions, he gains half a stroke on the field. When it comes to hitting fairways, he's above average versus the field. When it comes to around the green play and approach play, he's above average. He's very neutral on the greens, but he checks 10th boxes. He's top 10 in the model ranking, course fit model this week. And he's also peaking right now. The last 2 months, he's gaining 1.3 strokes on the field. The last 4 months, he's gaining 0.6. So he's starting to find his groove at a golf course that rewards the kind of golf Bud Colley plays. I like him at $8,100. That seems like a really solid value option there. Keegan Bradley's been playing some good golf as well lately, as you can see here, gaining 1.1 strokes on the field over the last 2, which is almost back to his baseline, basically, of the last year. Keegan has a 2nd place finish here back in 2024. Then he's also had a couple top 21 finishes here in the last 5 starts. 21st at the Masters, 12th at RBC Heritage, 19th at the Truist. He's a solid wedge player. He thrives in hellish conditions. Very good around the green. If you take a look at Keegan Bradley's stats around the green, they've been improving significantly lately. Drives the ball great. Distance and fairway finding ability, which helps him with, just finding green in regulations, not necessarily going to dial it in on approach, but hitting a lot of greens and then just dealing with whatever else is going on. Yeah, apparently he's a much better bend putter than he is in general. Not going to keep diving into everyone's splits, but you can do that on your own using code Chuck26 when signing up for the Model Maniac. Models. Hideki Matsuyama's lack of fairway finding ability is a problem, but once you get from that, he's just a wizard. Hellish conditions, you can just get up and down for par after par after par. And, he's not been playing great lately. The last 2 months, he's significantly below baselines entering the week. Truist 20, having to play these 4 rounds of golf where it only should have been 2 on the way to missing a cut has hurt him over there. But Carly WD'd right after I went live. We just dived into why we like him so much. Well, that's too bad. I like Sam Ryder. Okay, Pilon, let's go. Sam Ryder. Let's go Sam Ryder, first round leader. I'm almost certain that's going to be where we're going. Sam Ryder, first round leader. Why? We are playing good golf the last little while, but not necessarily finding our way inside the top 20 as much as we'd like. Sam Ryder, mediocre when it comes to hellish conditions, that's whatever. But what I really want to show you is the course ranking. Remember we spoke about how solid of a course fit this is for him earlier on in the show with the approach metrics from these specific ranges, and he's very good at bend putting surfaces. This is a good week for him. Playing better golf lately, and we are getting to the point here where he gains 0.4 strokes in round 1 versus losing all of those strokes over the weekend. He's just been struggling over the weekend, Pilon, and I want us to take advantage of that round 1 situation. Round 1 showdown at $6,900 is his DK price for week long. It'll probably be somewhere at the 7K range. If we're taking a look at first round leaders on DraftKings over here for Ride or Die, round 1, end of round 1 leader. We can almost go end of round 2 leader as well for Sam Ryder because those first 2 rounds are pretty damn good for him. I think that's the way I want to attack Sam. Maybe a made cut. Maybe we can, maybe 300 to 1 if you're in the mood for that. I'm just kind of worried about the weekend golf that he gets up to. But also for the price, maybe play some good golf. I've tried to bet Sam Ryder to win golf tournaments many, many times, and he's kind of let me down there. But it is what it is. It's been minimal investments when we've been doing that. 94-1 right now for first round leader. Yeah. So I don't mind him at all for a first round thing, for like a little safer type situations. Maybe if you're in the mood for that, go ahead. 300 to 1's a silly number in that department as well. Any weather wave advantages? Yeah, I'll give you a quick tour of the Discord, my friend, because this is, what we get over here. You are now a member of it. I'm assuming this is one of you that messaged me on there. Yeah, all the bets. If you want to take a screenshot of this, we've already gone over all of this stuff for you guys. And if we take a look at the research station, you can go to the Charles Schwab research station. I need to change that typo there. But we can go from the very beginning, where I put all this stuff in here today. Weather as of Tuesday AM. No wind all week equals lower scoring. Scattered thunderstorms before and during the event, so if the conditions equals lower scoring than usual, but likely still hard versus hellish. I think we're going to I might change the model rankings from half, like 10% hell to 10% hard and 5% hell, which we will switch around, because I think taking a look at this, I mean, these are the conditions for the week. I don't see a weather edge, especially given all the fact that there's like all this lightning and stuff coming along throughout the tournament. It could show up at any given time, but what I am noticing is here's the wind. Okay. When there's gusts that are 10 miles per hour, that's when guys go low. This is some calm ass conditions, and I've seen some rain in the forecast for tomorrow, and there's potentially been some rain this week already. So I'm not seeing any rain. The only time you see gusts up to 20, which is still like greenish, we see gusts of like 30, 36. That starts getting like, ooh, but that's usually when the wind is blowing 10 to 15 miles an hour. We are getting like minimal wind going on for this week. And, going through the next couple, it's going to be beautiful on Saturday. The wind starts to pick up a little bit more. You can see how the wind picks up as we expect some late afternoon thunder showers on Saturday. Listen to your Model Maniac Media right here. I'm giving you the exact stuff that's going to happen in the future weather-wise because we've lost camera. We blacked out. Can you hear me? Hello? Anyway, okay. Damn. Okay, well, people, I'm here. Apparently you can't see me anymore. Yep, that's what happens if I do that. That's not good. Okay. Well, this was due to happen. I had a weird feeling about my computer doing it, so we can actually... This looks like it's also frozen on this side of things. I don't even know. Look at this. You can't even... My screen is like not even updating. Okay, friends. The computer officially died. I don't know why, but you can hear me. That's going to be it as we look at some scattered thunderstorms on the screen here. I appreciate you all tuning in. We were trying to do a couple more deep dives, but the computer finally died on me. That's just how it goes. So use Chuck26 when signing up for your Model Maniac Patreon. Get yourself $15 for the US Open. That's in 4 weeks' time. So you'll get yourself through the US Open with everything you've seen on the screen here, all of the stuff there. Use code FGD when signing up for all your first-round leader bets on Sam Ryder on DraftKings, along with the Pearson Coody top 20 at plus 183. Love or plus 193 this week. So love all of that stuff. Love all of you. Thank you so much for tuning in. Apologies for the technical difficulties here on the back end with the camera and everything. But we are having fun. We're going to hit some winners this week. We're going to crush. We're going to have some fun showdown. We're going to hit some first-round leaders. We'll catch you guys soon.